Hi guys, it's Joel doing the next video log for Chaosia. I know it's a day late, but I was tired and lazy yesterday, so I will probably upload another video for the Lightning Lord's Wrath fairly soon, so keep an eye out for that. Um, it is November 16th, and here is your story updates. Starting with Jello. He eventually reaches Norwalk, and Norwalk commands him to kill a man. And Norwalk describes to Jello this man's life, and the man has a happy life. He cares about his family cares about him, he has a nice job, he's kind to everyone, and Norwalk just wants Jello to kill him just because he's just that guy, the nice guy. And so Jello refuses, so Norwalk gets angry and kills him, and Norwalk had made Jello look into a ball of fire when he was, or before he started putting Jello through this trial, and made Jello look at all the terrible things in his past. So Jello, enraged by Norwalk killing the man, creates a ball of fire and makes Nora look into it, and Norwalk gets really angry, pretty much tells Jello off and alludes to some pretty painful stuff in his past and then leaves. So Jello kind of feels bad and wishes he could apologize to Norwalk, but already gone. So he leaves and decides to start training. So he goes to the battlefields and pretty much just summons Hitomi and lets Hitomi go wild, killing goblins and goblins. But he starts to get overwhelmed, and Hitomi unleashes this power that Jello hadn't seen before, but this power really quickly drains Jello's magic and health and pretty much knocks him unconscious. And so when he comes to, Hitomi tells him what happened. They go back up to the surface and go to Central City, and they find the magica of light and dark. Um, Side note, beasts are no longer, the beasts that are like the essence of a magic are now referred to as magica. Um, that just seems a little more helpful. But anyway, he meets the Magica of Light and Dark, and they look like just kids, like 8-year-olds, but they just look like twins, twin 8-year-olds. But when Dark tells him to leave, he refuses. And as Dark gets angry, Light seems to get more and more tired, and then Light just passes out, and Dark suddenly gets just these black wings. His eyes become really, really demented. He gets fangs. He suddenly seems kind of taller. Basically, his powers start to show up once Light passes out. So, Jello almost gets into a serious fight with Dark, but he ends up kind of realizing what his position is, so he backs off and leaves Dark alone. Um, he goes to the School of Magics in Central City and learns the magic of Mystic, then decides to go underground to train with Hitomi. And along the way, he just eventually decides to just go around underground and ends up in one of the tunnels of Katsueki. And he runs into Psyche, and Psyche eventually leads him to Inazukami. So now he is currently training with Inazukami. Thunder. Last we saw him, he had found a portal in a little underground room. Well, that he goes through the portal and arrives in a cave. And so he goes outside of the cave and finds himself about halfway up this very large, very, very, very cold mountain. It's snowing. Temperatures are way below freezing. It is just cold. And as he goes up, it just gets colder and colder. But he chooses to go up, and he ends up finding this sort of deserted mansion. So inside this mansion, he goes around and eventually finds a room that has some maps. And the maps show that he is on a mountain called Mount Polonus, and it also reveals to him that he's no longer on Altera, he's now on a planet called Roteos. So he finds a picture of a man and woman who were probably the former owners of the mansion. They seem slightly familiar to him, but he can't place why. So he leaves and decides to trek back down the mountain and ends up at a village. And so he goes into the village, finds the council, which was actually in session, so he kind of intrudes on that, but they talk with him, and so he asks who the two people are, and he finds out that the Lord and Lady, um, who lived there, went missing about 20 years ago after working on a portal. So it's kind of assumed that they might have gone through the portal, but it's not sure because we just know that they disappeared. I mean, people know they've been working on a portal, but they're not sure if that is really what happened to them. But the people of the council tell Thunder that there's a city to the east, just that's outside of the mountains, and that the city would probably have someone who knows the answers. So Thunder sets off to go to this distant city. Inazukami, last time we heard from him, he had just heard from Voltage that metal was kind of poking around in his mind, the magic of metal. So he goes to the Koran Mountains. Sorry about that, somebody decided to call. Anyway, so Kami went to the Koran Mountains to try to find metal. Well, he ends up finding these metallic humanoids called the Minimads, and they end up leading him to meet the magic of metal. After a brief discussion with Metal, Metal tells him that he is to train with the Minimads to learn metal magic. And so he does, and sorry about that. Afterwards, he goes to the jungle and ends up finding Psyche playing with the Magica of Plant. But, you know, the Magica of Plant kind of talks with Kami for a little bit, nothing too serious, just kind of a hi, how are you? Leaves, and so Kami and Psyche seem determined to get stronger, and we'll just kind of see where they go from there. Nintendo, last time you saw him, he had found this mysterious egg. Well, turns out that egg was the egg of a Cardalu, and a Cardalu is the only monster I've never ever seen. So he ends up tracking down the baby Cardalu, and while it doesn't seem like a threat, he makes sure to go find Galen and tell him that there is a serious potential threat out there. Gale goes to Atlantis because he decides he wants to invent and learn the magic of slime. On a side note, Inazukami and Nintendo 13 had a player versus player match, and Inazukami ended up victorious in that. So that's what you've missed over the past 8 days. Bye bye.